The worst career advice Mark Cuban ever got. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. You can go to focusgroupradio.com and learn all about the show, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, and all our media is there, including both shows. And welcome. And I want to also say that we had a great Criterion Collection month. We're brought to you each month by our friends at Deep Discount, and this past month we were giving movies away, and everybody did great. Lots of guesses. Not everybody's going to win, but most people are going to get either a movie or a socks. So I'll keep you posted, but I got to sort through all that stuff now and make it happen.
Not everybody's going to win? Did anyone have wrong guesses?
There were 3. And they were good. Huh? They were good wrong guesses, meaning they had identified an actor, but it was not the same film. For instance, a couple people guessed the movie To Kill a Mockingbird because they thought one of the actors was Gregory Peck. And if you heard the clue, you'd think that,
right? But
it was not. And then some of you sent great notes thanking us for playing the game because you go all the way back to the serious days and you remember with Tim's list and pick that flick. And there were some hilarious ones, some great notes. So I think I'm going to be sharing those as the weeks go by, some of the notes you guys sent. But as I said, I'm going to take the next week to sort through all the stuff and then start mailing out gifts, either movies or socks. And, you know, a lot of you smartly played on every week so that I'll figure that all out.
Hey, I have an etiquette question for you.
Yes.
If somebody invites you over to their house for dinner.
Okay.
And... you know, come on over. We're gonna have burgers, burgers and a salad, and then you sit down to dinner, and the host comes out with lasagna on their plate or chicken or something else, but everyone else has burgers. What do you think of that?
That's kind of weird.
I'm
guessing
so.
Does this happen?
So. This happened to me twice recently. People come over for dinner. And one of them was, come over, we're doing turkey burgers, and everybody was going to bring something. And then the woman who had us, she sits down, she's got herself a lasagna and something totally different, like a miso soup or something. And I looked and I thought, well, this is really odd. And then and I didn't say anything, but everybody kind of looked at one another because it was almost as if, come on over, and we all had this one meal and she did her own thing as the hostess. And then I went to another place, and the guy that invited us sits down with a wonderful looking fried chicken and like he had made us some pasta with a meatball, you know, it was like Italian dinner, whatever. Mm-hmm. But he sits down with fried chicken, some really nice looking green beans, era corn or whatever. And I said to him, hey, where did we get that? I didn't see it. Well, he said, I had this, you know, I had this left over from the other night. So I just thought I was going to have this. I just thought that was really weird.
I agree.
Okay, I thought it was just me, but the fact that it happened twice recently, I just thought that was kind of something.
I suppose it does fall into the category of an etiquette question because when you are the host, you should normally be eating what everybody else is being served.
I would think.
You know, you guys have some strange customs down there at the beach, I tell you.
Well, yeah, one was at the beach, one wasn't, but it was just I just thought an odd thing to say. Hey, come on over for Chinese food, and then someone's having a piece of lasagna.
Could you imagine someone bringing out a Kung Pao chicken while you're having steak filet mignon?
Yeah. Just
all right. Here's one for you. You know how I sometimes get these direct mail pieces, these appeals for money, and I think it was
because you did the Indian reservation, you got a little mittens and the
the dream catcher. Well, look what arrived in the mail today.
Oh no!
See what that thing is on there?
Is it a silver dollar or
it's a half dollar?
Kennedy half dollar.
It's a Kennedy half, but they didn't show his face. And it's from our friends at the LEORF, Law Enforcement Officers Relief Fund. And next to it, there seems to be a handwritten note. It's printed. John, did you know that many of your neighbors in the New York City area support law enforcement?
Mm.
Now, The reason I'm not doing anything with this, but I'm going to keep the $50 is because they addressed it to John Nash Sr. I don't know who he is. I may be approaching senior, but I don't know who a John Nash Sr. is. So you're not going to get
Well, what
my
did they
money.
want you to do with the 50-cent piece anyway?
They also included a check for $2.50. You had to sign up for a monthly contribution, like 25, 50, something like that. But this was a gift from them, along with coasters.
What did you give money to that you're now on this list?
Here's the coasters.
Oh, I like the coasters.
This one's like a
What's it say?
this-
Land of the free.
and then the other one is like Blue the Black or something.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, they put that blue line in that. I
Yeah,
don't
for the
like that
police.
one.
It's support of the police. It's almost like the leather one, the leather flag,
The leather
blue
flag,
and
yeah.
black and blue leather
So,
flag.
so I have no idea what I gave to that led to that, but I just thought that was a funny thing. And I was going to throw one other thing your way, which I was just totally amused by. So many of us watched the Queen's funeral last week. 4.1 billion people. It was the most viewed thing on the planet, I think. And the next one down, which is weird, is the opening of the Atlanta Olympics. Now, don't you find that strange?
Yeah, really strange.
That was the one with Richard Jewell and the bombing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So the Queen is way up there. Then it goes down to 3 billion for the Atlanta Olympics. However, I came across this article that I just thought was cute. It's a short thing. North Dakota women exchange letters with Queen Elizabeth every year on their shared birthday. So this woman out in North Dakota realized that her birthday was the same as Queen Elizabeth's. And
Well,
she
when
sent
is
her
Queen Elizabeth's birthday? Because
But
it all depended on the weather.
They did not say in here. Isn't that
She trooped that
interesting?
color depending upon the weather, didn't she?
Yep. So this woman's named Adele Hankey. Maybe she's the friend of Mr. Hankey from South Park. Little
In
poo.
North Dakota to boot.
Yeah, North Dakota. So she sent her a card one year, and she goes, "Bless her soul," the Queen wrote back. And for the next 70 years, they each exchanged cards on their birthday, including recipes now and then. And it turns out that the recipes the Queen liked were with marmalade. And this woman loves marmalade too. Well, isn't that just the best? So anyway, just a little random thing I threw out. I thought it was cute.
I gotta get a birthday card to the Queen. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
That's
She asked for a
interesting.
hat, but didn't get one. She didn't want, yeah.
And they said she had jam sandwiches. I guess what do they call them? Penny jammies or jammy pennies
Mm-hmm.
or something. It was strawberry marmalade or strawberry jam with butter every day. Or something like
Isn't
that.
that
with
sort
her
of
tea.
equivalent to our peanut butter and jelly?
Well, these are these little tea sandwiches they would have.
Little
You know, the
tiny-
British have the tea. Yeah. I don't know. I can't imagine. I guess she had tea every day
Yeah, tea was every day, yeah.
and a cocktail. I don't know. Do you drink
So
tea?
we
You
have
don't
the
drink tea at all.
$50. You have your oddball dinner party problem. Come on over. I'm making salmon, but I'm going to have miso soup.
Yeah. I don't like
Then we
salmon.
have the $50.
It
You
was
what?
almost like, I don't like salmon. Come on over for salmon. I don't like it, so I'm going to have this piece of chicken.
Or halfway through the dinner, why are you having lasagna? Oh, that meat's about 2 weeks out of date.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Right? I mean,
Well, I thought, did she not have enough? Like, did too many people show up to eat? I don't know. I just thought it was an odd.
but you see, you thought about it, right?
Well, because it's an odd thing to me.
Yeah, it is. I
Come over for
agree.
dinner. I'd like you and Bob. It'd be like if you and Bob had everyone over for Thanksgiving, and then you decided, Bob and I decided we've had enough Thanksgiving. Turkey and everything's here, but we're going to have Chinese.
Lo
right?
mein. Yeah,
we're going to have lo
exactly.
mein.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I just thought that was a little...
So the format of the show, if you're new to our broadcast, is Tim and I do a little catching up. Then we have a segment called Caught Our Eye, which we each bring something to the table that usually surprises the other person. And I've got a good one today, boy. And then sometimes we visit with our partner Deep Discount. We have a quick break. We do a business birthday, the only show in the universe that does that. And then I teased our shop talk at the beginning, which is bad career advice that Mark Cuban gave, and he has some of his own to give. And it's a short article, but I think it's relevant to a lot of what we hear in the business advice camp. So without further ado, Mr. Bennett, what caught your eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Mine caught my eye. It's a business one, and it's very quick and quite simple. But I think the optics on this are just very poor. The headline is Honda asks Ohio employees to return money from overpaid bonuses. So there's Honda Accord, and Honda has a decent-sized car manufacturing plant in the state of Ohio. And they had apparently overpaid their employees' bonuses by somewhere around 8% of what their bonus would have been. And everybody ended up getting 8% more. So there obviously was probably some glitch in the system. And so they recognized that there was a problem. And so they sent a note out to all the employees saying, you were overpaid on all your bonuses, and you're given until September 22nd. So, last week, to decide whether you would pay us the money back up front, or we're going to deduct it from your future paychecks future bonuses. And they then interviewed a number of employees who said, it wasn't like the bonuses were the biggest bonuses we ever had or the biggest checks we ever had. And for a lot of us, with what's going on with inflation and recession and car sales because of chip shortages, all the other things, that it's going to be difficult for some families. They said that could be a mortgage payment, that could be a car payment, a number of things, half a week's worth of groceries. So a lot of people were very critical. They said Honda as a company is valued at $42 billion as a valuation. And they said, really, how much money are we talking about for all of these workers that work on the line making the cars on the production line? Why not just in good faith suck it up and thank the employees and rather than going after, which probably is a rounding error on their financial statement. But they're saying somebody had contacted the Fair Labor Standards people, and the Fair Labor Standards Act says that Honda has the right to do this. And they said people could pursue it in court, but at the end of the day, the company does have the right because they've acknowledged that they made an error, and legally they're entitled to be able to take the money back from the employees and give them the opportunity to do it voluntarily or dock them. They said they're going to be curious to see how many people actually have paid it back or what the pushback is. I just thought this was one of these things where Honda should have done
the right thing.
The right thing, and just said it was our mistake, but thank you for all your work over the past year and during the pandemic, and move on.
Did the article give you any sense of the average bonus?
No, all it said, and I tried to find it at a number of different places, it said that on average, it's 8% of, they owe back 8% of their bonus pay, or the equivalent of hundreds of dollars. So if you got, I don't even know how
let's say you got
$1,000.
$1,000.
So what would 8% of 1,000 be?
I'm doing that right now. $80.
$80. But
it seems to me that that's a trivial amount. They let the employee keep it.
Yeah.
On that level.
Yeah. And it could be if you got a $20,000 bonus, you're talking $1,600 or whatever extra. So it's above and beyond the extra. But it wasn't like they got double bonuses, and that's what people said. It wasn't for some of them. They appreciated the bonus, but nobody, the 8% difference could have been a tax thing, right? You never. It's not like all of a sudden I was expecting $1,600 and I got $10,000.
Exactly.
So anyway, I just thought it was not good optics for Honda. I would have thought that they would have been a bit more. Culturally a bit more sensitive,
and especially the economy and how
with the way everything is
so valued at that level that they can
$42 billion value. Yeah, it's one of the most profitable and best run auto companies out there. But anyway, so that was what caught my eye.
I like that shirt you're wearing. It's sort of what they were at Paris Baguette.
You know what? You had said that once, but I knew what I was going to take this shirt off if you're watching the video, because I knew John would. John, one time you said I looked like a sailor.
Well, so now you look like you work at the Korean chain of bakeries called Paris Baguette, where they all wear berets and shirts with stripes like that. Yeah.
Listen, if you watch any of the military YouTube videos like I do for marching, because I like to see these countries march, you'll notice the Russians all have this T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Over the uniforms, it looks somewhat smart. I think they'll have a V-neck and they show a little bit. So, yeah. You and I tend to wear the same thing a lot with blues colors. Today is probably the most different we've ever been.
I agree. This is one of the last times I'll be able to wear this short sleeve shirt because it's getting a little cool.
I know it is cool. Nice, though.
All right,
What caught your eye?
You know what caught my eye? The headline alone is gonna send you into orbit because I've never heard of something like this in my life, and it comes to us from Dublin, Ireland. Headline: Doctors find 55 batteries in woman's body. Highest reported number ever. The mix of batteries was AAA and AA. Here's the subhead. Now, you know, when writers, I love writers because here's the subhead. Surgeons milked, in quotes, 4 of the cylinders from her colon to her rectum and then retrieved them from her anus. That's just 4 of the batteries. So the terms emergency and AAA typically connote a roadside incident. Certain doctors in Dublin, however, are unlikely to ever associate those terms with anything but a recent surgery during which they found dozens of batteries in a 66-year-old woman's colon and stomach. A report of the incident published Thursday in the Irish Medical Journal detailed the patient's arrival at St. Vincent's University Hospital where an X-ray revealed the foreign objects in her body. Miraculously, none were obstructing her gastrointestinal tract. Doctors initially decided to wait in hopes that she would pass the batteries. Kind of like when a little kid has a penny or a crayon. Maybe it's going to pass and we'll see it in the poo, right?
Is this a woman in Ireland?
Ireland, yeah, Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
Though she released 5 AA batteries in the first week. Just wait, I shouldn't. Okay. Subsequent x-rays showed that most were still stuck inside, and the woman began experiencing severe abdominal pain. After realizing that her distended stomach was hanging over the pubic bone due to the weight of the batteries, surgeons had to cut her into her abdomen and successfully removed 46 of them. Unfortunately, for all involved, 4 additional batteries remained trapped in the colon. As described in the report, doctors milked them into her rectum. I don't know what that means.
Squeeze
to remove them
like
from her
cow.
anus. This brought the total amount of batteries she ingested, both AA and AAA, to a whopping 55. To the best of our knowledge, this case represents the highest reported number of batteries ingested at a single point in time. So I'll pause there because that's actually the end of the piece, but to the best of our knowledge, this case represents the highest reported. That means that people have been swallowing batteries for a while. Did I get that right?
Well, and part 2 of the story is she got C's and D's up her butt because they're the bigger batteries, right? I was going to say, I love the selection. John's got a picture here. Is this an actual picture from this?
This came
or
from
this
the
is
journal.
Your own picture?
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
because
this came from the journal, yeah.
Did she have a battery fetish? I mean, what was the deal?
So they finish by saying, while the incident certainly inspired curious bafflement, and in our case here on the focus group, some amusement, the report reminded readers that the ingestion of batteries is a serious, albeit unusual, method of self-harm. Its authors noted that the act can cause severe issues, including mucosal injury, perforation, and obstruction. So,
well, the acid,
they went
I guess, would the stomach go in and eat the acid of the battery, or did they come out sooner?
Over time, it is theoretically possible. I don't know if it could eat through the metal that fast, but yeah, you would think that the battery acid could cause problems.
So she wasn't crapping these out?
They tried to get her initially, and she passed 4, and then they had to go in and get the rest. But they feel that this was this was part of an eating disorder, and this was a form of self-harm. So either this was a mechanism for her to kind of, maybe she ate cake or something she shouldn't have, or she didn't think she should, then she would compensate by having a AA or a AAA.
She'll have to call Jelly Belly. Remember, they would have all these people with eating disorders if people ate dirt and then they made a dirt-flavored jelly beans. And women was all set, so they could do they could do a battery flavor.
They had grass too, didn't they? They had a grass flavor, yeah.
Yeah, stinky cheese, stinky feet.
So it's a short caught your eye, but boy, does it catch your eye. I have never, ever heard of this. And then when they said this incident was the highest number, that means that the emergence. Well, Tim, you did a caught your eye.
Well, she said if these things fell at her belly was hanging out, distended from these batteries. So I guess it's like when they say don't chew and swallow gum. I wonder if that's why I'm heavy. I'd swallow my gum.
I know gum gets digested. Gum gets digested.
Remember they would say gum would stay in your system for 7 years.
Forever and ever and ever, yeah.
But these batteries, I would have thought they went through the system and out. No? Like if you swallowed a penny. Well,
that's an actual true thing. I don't know did I talk about this before? Like 1 year when I was a baby or very young, I swallowed a penny. My mom calls the podiatrist, and he said, well, don't worry about it, but you got to start checking the poo.
Did it come out?
Yeah. And then
shiny?
that's
Was
true
it
for
shiny?
crayons too. Yeah, a little shiny copper pen.
You ate crayons?
Yeah, I ate crayons. Yeah.
Wow. Why would
I
you
mean,
do
for
that?
kids, we you know how kids explore the world by putting things in their mouth, right? You
Yeah,
you
I had a
watch
kid in
kids on a
kindergarten ate paste. I remember that. Paste looked pretty good to eat. Remember that paste would come in those things, the tubes?
Yes,
Like
and
a
it had that
little
thing
barrel
on the top.
Yeah. It looked edible.
It was edible. Play-Doh is technically edible too, isn't it?
I was playing with Play-Doh this week with my nephew.
They have the whole Play-Doh thing, but
Yeah.
don't they mix it together, which is not good? Don't they mix the colors together?
Well, he mixed them all together and got a big gray blob, which disappointed me. But initially, and I did smell it this time. I've never smelled it before because you and I did a story about they put a vanilla flavor or a vanilla smell to it, which I didn't realize it was vanilla. And when I smell it, it still doesn't smell vanilla to me. But whatever they do, they said they added vanilla, and that's what gives Play-Doh that unique smell. But
I think when we were kids, Play-Doh had a kind of funky smell. If I remember correctly.
the smell is the same, but they for whatever they do, they add the smell to it. But this battery thing to me, I don't know. I'd be scared.
When I found this article, I thought I'm not going to peep a word of this, and this is going to be caught my eye this week. And I knew you would enjoy the oddity of it, and luckily she survived. But if
How
I
do you
was
get
a
her to
surgeon,
stop doing that?
I don't know. I would hope that after she had her abdomen cut into and her stomach open to get the batteries out, she would, seek some help or therapy and not do it again. It would have been a funny thing if the surgeon put like a USB port in her tummy or something. Like, just charge her. She's got batteries in there. Charge her phone up. Imagine waking up from surgery with like a little plug or something, like as a lesson to you for not doing ingesting batteries.
Well, she got a charge out of life, John.
Yeah.
So hey, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a business birthday and a shop talk to share with you. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Focusgroupradio.com is the only thing you need to know. You can go there and find our Tuesday podcast, TFGM buttoned. You can find this show, all our previous shows, and that includes video and audio. And off to the right, you'll see our partners and sponsors, and we'd like for you to visit deepdiscount.com. You can go there by clicking on their logo, which is a shark. I used to always do Sharky. Arr! Got some complaints about that, so we backed off Sharky. And so here we are.
I can't believe you got complaints.
There was one guy who left a review one time, and it was a funny review. He said, these guys are funny, blah, blah, blah. But he said, in this one, he said, John doesn't need to repeat everything funny that Tim says. I have a habit of you'll say something, and I'll repeat it because I think it's funny. And then another review was like, we can give Sharky a break for a while. And I'm like, okay, because we had the puppet going. We had a lot of Sharky stuff. Maybe we jumped the shark, right?
Well, Carl gave me a shark that they gave him when he retired from the IRS that I was going to debut.
Good.
Maybe next time we do it, I'll bring the shark in.
Maybe Sharky needs to make a comeback, yeah.
Well, something different. Could be Sharky's cousin, Carl.
Who's here to audit you.
Right. Take a bite out of your savings.
Take a bite out of your... I think that's why they gave him the shark. All right, without further ado, the business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So one of the things I miss most about our studio, of doing the show in person, John, in person together, you and I would do the show sitting next to each other, is we would always celebrate our birthdays. And so, of course, you have a birthday coming up this Friday.
After our show.
After the show. But are you doing anything special for your birthday this year?
I don't know. So far, maybe it's just something quiet.
Nice dinner or go out to
Yeah,
dinner? Or
and
something?
if it's good weather, I'll take a nice bike ride. I'll treat myself.
Do you do something for yourself, or will you and Bob do something? Will you guys go out for dinner and do something fun?
We'll probably go out for dinner. Yeah. And we were just talking about this earlier on TFG Unbuttoned about the cost of going out to dinner. So it
Right.
has to be an event like this to go out to dinner.
Well, it used to be fun. We'd bring in cakes or cupcakes or lemon bars or champagne or
Well,
drinks.
lemon was Tim.
Yeah.
Tim was always lemon because he has a good taste for lemon. And that was a big thing, was finding lemon bars for you. And you would always surprise me. It was usually anything chocolate, right? It
Right,
was
or that
sweet.
one year I brought you that huge Costco chocolate cake. That thing
I remember
was
that,
enormous.
yeah.
They don't make that anymore.
That was
But,
like, and that was a good cake, too.
Yeah, it was a really good cake. Friend Kathy told us how to make it look like you made it at home. Just take the knife and run it over it.
Love that. Yeah.
But, so not being able to celebrate together, though, I wanted to acknowledge that Mr. Nash
Thank you.
has a birthday coming up, and is usually our business birthday this time of year. But I did find one that I don't.
Was somehow aligned.
Well, happy
This
birthday,
one's a good one.
Thomas Crapper. So he was born September 28th in 1836, and he died January 27th, 1910. At 73 years old, he was an English plumber and a businessman. And Thomas Crapper and Company was his organization, or the business that he founded. It was a plumbing equipment supply company. And notably, in regard to toilets, he was often equated with crapper, or taking a crap, with his toilet company, because he had his logo and his seal on there, Thomas Crapper. And fictionally, they said there was a story done in 1969 out of New Zealand by a satirist named Wallace Rayburn. And they had said that Crapper invented the toilet.
That's what I thought.
Right, but that's not true. That's not what
okay.
happened. But he actually did have 9 patents to make the toilet better. So, and a number of them were, and so of course he would have his name on these toilets because he had done inventions, and particularly the ball cock. Now, I didn't know what a ball cock was. So of his nine patents, 3 of them were related to improving the floating ball cock, which is essentially like the flapper or the cover. And he improved the S bend in the plumbing trap. He also invented the U bend in plumbing so that things did not get stuck. And he was also known, and in his showroom, he was the very first person to show a bath, a toilet, and a sink in the same room as a showroom. So if you got to think, that was not a common thing to have all those 3 items in one room. So he was noted for his quality of products and caught the attention of the royal family. So they said way back, Prince Albert had purchased Sandringham, which has been in the news, and contacted Thomas Crapper to help put plumbing in there and put in 30 lavatories into Sandringham. And so he had what they called a number of royal warrants and was the official supplier of plumbing to the royal family and to a lot of people in Britain. The other thing that they would make were manhole covers. And they said to this day, if you wander around certain areas of London, one of the kind of fun things to do is to go find the manhole covers inscribed Crapper. And particularly in the Chelsea area of London, there's a lot of manholes that have his name on them for the sewage, which is Crapper. So, but he made manhole covers. As I said, he was the first to set up display sanitary conditions. He was an advocate of sanitary plumbing. He popularized the notion of having plumbing or bathrooms inside of homes. Of course, we all know about outhouses and all that sort of stuff. So he again was really behind putting the plumbing inside the house, which of course, because of his plumbing business, he made a lot of money. They talk about the origin of the word crap. And because again, with them saying that that's where they came up with the kind of slang for the toilet. They said a common version of the story is that American servicemen who were stationed in England during World War I saw his name on all the toilets, and they'd always say, "I'm going to go take a crap."
Is that urban legend, or is that?
Yeah, they said that's urban legend.
Okay,
So they said actually, Crapper, the name, is Middle English, and it predates the application to bodily waste. It means to pluck in Dutch, to pluck or separate, and in Old French it means waste or rejected matter. So they talked about that, but just happened to be. I like the myth of the crapper. I got to go.
I
take
do
a
too.
crap.
I prefer that one actually.
So that's how he really got famous. But it had to be that because his name was on all these toilets, Thomas Crapper, right? So why would it not be that?
And Tim included for his some of the pictures he had me put on. There's this. It's a symbol like a seal, and it says the venerable. And then inside of it, Thomas Crapper and Company. But if you just read the type by the size, you'd go the Venerable Crapper.
Right. And that was on his toilets. Those were the toilets and his fixtures. So if you said, I'm going to go take a crap, I don't think it's an urban legend. To me.
It makes sense to me.
This is how it was written. He died of colon cancer.
Oof.
So, which again relates to crap, right?
Yeah.
So
73. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad for 1910, I suppose, right?
Yeah, he was a royal supplier. So happy birthday, Thomas Crapper.
Thomas Crapper. All right. And as I said, he's 2 days ahead of mine. He takes the cake.
You're both
venerable.
You're both
the
full
venerable.
of shit. You're both full of shit, right?
The venerable Thomas Crapper. All right, as teased at the start of the show, that's getting me back for the working at Paris Baguette line with the shirt.
Remember the time I had the pince-nez or whatever you call those things?
Pince-nez.
Pince-nez, and you made so much fun of me. And then I find out you were using them at restaurants and things.
I do have a pair, yes.
Yeah, and so it was a whole show. We should go find that show. You and Paul Hagen, I think, was there. Wasn't it Hagen?
Yeah, because we were calling you a dandy. Put your pince-nez on.
Yeah, the whole show, too. You're consistent. You ran through the whole 2 hours of that, which was good. I enjoyed it, too.
But a joke should be... If a joke can't be driven down into the dirt, because you sat there where Romaine used to sit, and you pull out this thing and you clip him on, and Paul and I are like, what?
And you're like, whoa, Tim's got pince-nez or whatever.
and then Paul and is like, oh, darling, I didn't know you had such fine reading spectacles.
No, I should have pince-nez on with this. I got to find those. I don't think they're ever warm again after you tease me.
I think you got the same ones that they're News Optical or something. They're flat and they slip into a little case. But
yeah, they're wonderful.
If you put them in your pocket and you remember to bring them, they're great for a restaurant. And they are a conversation starter or ender, depending on how you look at it, right?
Well, I don't know. Imagine going to the first date with those and taking them out.
I think I'll have you see the pinch thing up.
Like, what are those?
Nothing says old like pince-nez.
Monocle.
That would be. I think you hit the nail on the head. Too bad you never came in and just put one in your eye like Colonel Klink from Hogan's Heroes, right? And you start doing Tim's List with the monocle. That would have been good.
Yeah. Well, next time.
I tell you, sometimes you wish you had a video camera in that studio because a lot of stuff was hilarious that went on. You only heard the voices. You
weren't allowed, right? All the craziness at Sirius XM, which
now they do it all the time, but it was theater of the mind.
All right, that whole thing is taken as a sidebar. I think that whole, at least a lot of it's unlistenable.
I wanted to ask you something. I was listening to the channel the other day. I only listen to NPR and a few other things, but is the Wharton channel still on the network?
Wharton, yeah. Yeah, the business channel,
okay.
Yeah. Which was our idea, by the way, and we have the original proposal, which we got screwed by Greenstein, the whole group of them. They're snakes.
Well, wasn't his kid going to Wharton or something? And
wherever the kid wanted to get in college, they had a radio station. They had one at Stanford, they had one at Dartmouth, they had one at Wharton.
Tim, you're still holding that torch.
Because, they had no integrity, and I don't like people that don't have any integrity in business. Acknowledge the fact. It's like when you and I had booked the Pet Shop Boys. And we were told we weren't allowed to do it. And that's why we didn't tell them when we booked Tim Gunn. Remember they were pissed because they tried to get Tim Gunn forever?
We couldn't
get him. And we didn't say a word. But then we did tell them we had Pet Shop Boys. That's why every week I'd put on that board, who's your guest this week? And I'd put Madonna.
Madonna, yeah.
And it would drive me. And Derek, I always used to love Derek. Apparently tomorrow in the focus group, Madonna's on.
Yeah. So there was a grease board in the old OutQ studio that Tim's talking about, and you write, you'd run this pencil, and Tim would always go Madonna, and then Derek would get in there on a Monday and be like, "Well, apparently the focus group had Madonna on."
You had to write who your guests were. Madonna.
But that Pet Shop Boys thing was really, really insulting because
Sleazy.
we met them physically at the Hammerstein Ballroom. We saw the concert. Bob had paid for a meet and greet. He gets up to the Pet Shop Boys, and he was like Patsy on Absolutely Fabulous. So you can never have too many hats, gloves, and shoes. He didn't know what to say. We start talking to them, and Tim's like, you should come on our show. All right, we'll get in touch. And
I said,
Tim got in
nobody's
touch
never
with their
asked. We
PR.
said, are you going to go to SiriusXM? Nobody ever asked us. Well, we would love you to come on our show. Call our agent. Here's the number. We're going to be back in 3 months, 4 months, whatever. I call. They set it up. And Sirius went ballistic that we were having them on and took them away from us.
And we would have had a better conversation.
Of
we wanted
course
to talk
we
to
would
them.
have.
Yeah, we would have talked. We wanted to talk to them about they designed their own album covers. From a branding point of view, not only was their music world known, right, but they also did all their own branding and marketing. So that
very
was right
interesting
in our wheelhouse.
graphics.
Yep.
To this day, everybody knows that the album with the orange album they did.
Yep.
Remember with that you picked it right out off the CD shelf. But that's what I anyway. I won't be bitter,
No,
but
it's
I'll be angry.
what always got in your craw was if you're going to do that.
They have no integrity. They have no integrity in business.
And that's just one little story. We got a whole bunch about them. Moving on, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we have an article for you for Shop Talk, and it revolves around career advice that Mark Cuban received. And, Mark Cuban from Shark Tank, and he's a big famous investor. What team does he own again?
The Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, he owns a sports team as well. So the article starts with Mark Cuban says the worst career advice is follow your passion. And then he says, what should you do instead? Turns out it's something you already do, just need to turn it up a notch. So in a nutshell, he feels that when people say follow your passion, it's not a good piece of career advice. And he says, follow your passion? No, follow your effort. No one quits anything they're good at. And I just thought this was kind of fascinating because your passion can be very different than what you're really good at. And he does differentiate between the two. And he says, if you're really good at one thing and you're happy at it, it may not be your passion. Just amp it up and do better at it, and you're going to have a great career.
Yeah. So I pulled this and I read it, and I kind of agreed with it, and then I was conflicted with it because I thought toward the end, I don't know if you felt the same way. I was somewhat confused by the very end of it. Were you or not?
Yes, I was too. Yeah.
Where they went back again and said, follow your effort and place a little more structure around the process of improving, learning, and growing. The more effort you put in, the more enthusiastic you will get, the more passionate you'll become, the more likely you'll be able to develop the talent and experience required to turn a passion into a new business or career. So I just thought it went back to passion again.
But the difference here is that little trip of the language they did, which was the more effort you put in, the more enthusiastic you will get. So it's implying that what you may be good at, you're not overly enthusiastic about, but the more work you put in, you'll develop a passion, and that becomes your passion as opposed to following a passion that you think you have. A little bit of a semantic twist there, but
because I thought so. I'll take you for example, right? So you're very passionate about cycling, right? You like cycling, and so I thought, could you make a living out of that? And I think you certainly could if you said you wanted to be the CMO of a bicycle company, right? So would that
that's an interesting. Okay.
So your passion, I think that could be, or you're very passionate about cars and you like to work in the auto industry and designing cars or something. So I took a little bit of
umbrage.
Yeah, I think umbrage is probably the right word with this because I thought there are certain things you are passionate about. If you liked languages and you wanted to be a translator, or you wanted to work overseas because you had a fascination with French culture and French language and you'd like to work in France, and that's a passion, you're a Francophile or something. But I don't know. Because effort, I'll use you again. You're very good at graphics and designing and technical things. You don't love it, right? But you're very good at it. And so I thought to myself, and I used you as an example in this whole piece when I read it, is it the effort or is the passion? I wouldn't say you're passionate about graphic design, are you?
Not anymore. But
you were always very good at it. You always had a very good eye to it, but were you ever passionate about it?
Bob and I talk about that, and we no, the answer is no. And we know people who are, and they built careers and studios out of that. But you did something really interesting, I think, and I wonder if everybody listening caught it. I love your example of saying, okay, I love cycling. It's like my hobby and I'm passionate about it. But you didn't go the route that I thought you'd go.
What was that?
So let's say you're 24 and you love to cycle. I guess that my brain thinks that someone thinks they're going to be riding in a professional capacity, riding the bike.
Okay, you're going to be in a team or something.
But instead, you went to a very clever area where you said maybe you end up being the CEO of Trek or a bike company or something related to cycling.
Where you develop one of the parts, one of the accessories designers.
And I think that's a really smart thing you said, and I think that's a different way of channeling passion. And I think I'm actually struck by that as wow, because I never thought of it that way. I always go directly to if someone likes football, maybe they have to be playing it, but no, they could actually work for the NFL. They could work for a stadium. They could work in sport.
They could be a referee, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could be a reporter. They could be a statistician. There's a number of ways you could do it, and that's why I thought this was. This is where I was challenged a little bit on it, of kind of the nuance of passion and effort. Is that, and that's why I used you as an example right away, because I said, okay, John's. If I looked at this from John's point of view, he's very passionate about cycling, and but very good at being creative in terms of graphic and design and tech and all that goes with that. And I wouldn't say he thinks that's a passion or ever it was a passion, although he was very good at it and put a lot of effort into it. But
yeah, so true.
From a cycling thing, I thought true. It could be a number of things. So anyway, that was my take on this was, okay. Listen, what I learned about all these articles that we do at Shop Talk, and you and I have talked about this with business books, is that everyone has a point of view, and it's exactly that, right? It's a point of view, and whether you agree to disagree with it or find something out of it, it's important. So,
I read an article this week, and I think we should have the author on. He's a writer for The Atlantic. I think his name is Derek Thomas, and the headline is provocative. It says, your career represents 1/8 of your life. And then he goes through and he does, the average person's alive for 8,000 weeks. Then you're asleep for so long, and most careers boil down to 480 weeks in a row of continuous time. And then he said, for every hour you work, you're usually not working 5 to 6 hours. He said, so when you think about it, jobs are important and you should focus on it, but they're not that important because you have a lot more life going on. So if your career is 1/8 of your life, we put a lot of effort into that. Anyway, it was a really great article, and I think we should talk about it in the future. I'm going to see if he's available because he does a podcast and he answers questions too. But and that kind of dovetails into the passion thing, right? Because his whole take was, he had an interesting one too. One of his things was a lot of young people love to jump around to make more money. Right. They'll be at a job for 8 months. And his thing was, stick where you are, see if you can make your job the best it can be. And he said, another thing he said was that I liked, don't get a job for a title you want to talk to about at a cocktail party. Get a job that you really want to do. Because the one that's the title is going to drive you crazy.
Right. Yeah, because you're just chasing that.
Yeah,
and you and I have had this discussion too on other shop talks or other business discussion of hobby versus passion.
Yep.
And that's a very different thing. So if your hobby is you like to cook, or you like photography, or you're an artist or whatever, that's very different to say, well, I want to make a living out of that.
Mm-hmm.
As a hobby. And so I don't know, hobby, passion.
No. Look, I found that with animation when I did my 2-year coursework. It drove me crazy. Because I wanted to make sure I passed every class. There was that level. But then I had one mentor who said to me, you might be happier just doing this as a hobby, because if you do it professionally, you report to a job every day and you're bringing to life someone else's vision.
Right.
So your passion has to be the desire to do the best little animation for someone else's story. It's an interesting little thing.
Right, it doesn't become yours. Right. Yeah, it becomes very workman. So, well, that was a good discussion on passion versus effort. So, good time to assess that, I think, if you so need to. So thanks to our friend at Mark Cuban. I still watch Shark Tank. Do you still watch Shark Tank?
You love it. No, I haven't seen it in a while, but
on CNBC in the evenings they run about 6 of them in a row.
Oh, okay, a block.
So
I should start
yeah,
watching.
if you ever
again.
want to just watch some of the older ones, it's interesting. And what I do now is sometimes I'll say, "Wow, that was a great idea," and I'll go Google it and see if the thing ever took off or if they ever actually made a deal. And it's about 50-50 because a lot of times they don't come to an agreement after they may have bought into something. They still have to do all their due diligence. So hey, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate all the time you spend with us. And again, happy birthday, Mr. Nash.
Thank you.
Toward the end of the week. Be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com. That's where you'll find all of our media housed there, including our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released every Tuesday. But again, you can download all of our media there for free and catch up on what's going on with John and me. And also check out our sponsors that are there, including Deep Discount, who's been with us for quite a while here now on the Focus Group, and start shopping away over there by clicking on the Deep Discount logo. We hope as fall is upon us, it starts to get darker out. Pay attention to the road. I was traveling this past week, and I'll tell you what, there are a lot of idiots between the 5 states I drove through. And every single time there was a problem, I looked over and someone had their face on the phone. So don't text and drive. Arrive alive. Have a good week.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.